Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and it is time to finish the build here of our Estes Black Brant II. All the decals are on, it's been clear coated, so that's always good. The remaining things are to just prepare it for flight. I mean, I'm not actually going to fly it right now, but to prepare it to be able to fly anyway, and that means I need to install the recovery system and all that. Now, a quick note before we do that. This kit, being that it is a scale model, and probably because of the shape of the engine right here, the engine mount, it does not have a engine hook. It doesn't have any kind of retention system at all, which is interesting. You definitely could, I'm pretty sure anyway, that Estes sells 24 millimeter retainer systems that they're like screw-ins. I've definitely used similar things before, so if you wanted to put one in here, it might not be the world's worst idea. Otherwise, when you fly this, you're going to have to do a combination of things to make sure that it doesn't blow up or anything. Anyway, so I don't have a motor, but here's a spacer. Basically, what you're going to have to end up doing is, well, let's use a smaller one. When you put the motor in, it's going to go like this far in. It's probably going to stick out the back a little bit. You can put tape around the motor, and that'll give this a bit of a friction fit, which is, nice, but it's probably not going to be adequate. I end up using a bit of masking tape and just tape the motor along the sides of the kit like so. That tends to hold it better, at least in my experience. Also in my experience here, I think that I'm going to have to do a little bit of sanding or something because this seems very, very tight at the moment. This is a spacer that you use in E-mounts. This is not an E-mount, but it should fit. It's 24 millimeters, and it does not. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is breaking out a hobby knife and just trimming the inside of this. And it feels like, as I'm kind of touching the inside of it, the plastic, remember, because this is a piece of plastic, it protrudes too far. So I'm going to trim that up. I'm going to have to, because otherwise it's going to fly. All right. Anyway, other things that need to be done involve, well, shock cord and the parachute. Parachute, I prefer adding a barrel swivel here for a variety of reasons. Not the least of which, I mean, ideally it'll spin and it won't get as tangled. In in reality, it's still going to get tangled. Hopefully just not as much. The other nice thing about using these barrel swivels is because it has a clasp, it's very easy to remove a parachute. Should you have a bit of a flight disaster or your parachute just, it had a good life and it got cooked a little bit or whatever happens to it, it's easy to remove it. It's also easy that if you're out for a long day of flying and one of your rockets does have a chute failure and you want to keep flying it, you could remove the chute from another rocket and like hot swap it in. This parachute is actually quite large, now that I'm noticing it, which, okay, I mean, that's fine. Maybe this is how the designers expect to protect those tiny little toothpicks. I still don't think they're going to survive the first flight, which is fine. If they break, I'm just going to break them all off. Hopefully it won't be too noticeable. Anyway, so I'm threading the shroud lines here through the eyelet of the barrel, like so, and then all you got to do is push the barrel up through the loop, and then pull it tight, and there you go. Easy enough. Clasp comes apart like so. I'm actually just going to move this for the time being because I don't really want to deal with it quite yet. But that'll just get clasped into the eye here on the nose cone. So that's great. This thing needs to go elsewhere for the time being. Hopefully, I've been really careful with those toothpicks, and I feel like I'm going to end up breaking them like really soon after this. It's somewhat miraculous they made it this far, I think. Anyway, the shock cord is the next order of business. Going into the instructions here, there is a template as per usual. So I'm going to cut that out And then we're going to do the usual Estes approach. It's a cool little trapezoid. These are all the same. I don't think I've seen an Estes one that has one of these in it that you do any differently. It's not like, you know, the motor mounts are all very similar, but they're subtly different every single time. This is one of those that is completely identical each and every time as far as I can tell, which is fine. Alright, so actually let's bring this down here. Break out my wood glue, which is nicely clogged. That's fun. There we go. Probably. Anyway, a couple stripes of glue. Oh yeah, that's still clogged. So I recycle these nozzles. The actual bottle of glue comes with a big flat one because this is wood glue. You're supposed to use like a lot of it at any given time. At least people think you will. Since I'm using it for precision, I've recycled this nozzle, which is for like a bottle of school glue, or just white glue. It's probably like 15 years old at this point, so it does get clogged. And that's fine because the stuff is water soluble. All you really need to do is take it off and sit it in a little cup of water, and that's usually enough to clean it up. Or you could try poking at it with a paper clip, but not necessary this time. Alright, so I folded it over. I'm going to again put some stripes of glue here, fold it over again, and each time make sure you squish it flat. You really want this as flat as possible because it is going inside the body tube. It is something that could create an obstruction for a variety of things, not least of which would be the shock cord, the parachute themselves coming out, which would be bad, of course. We don't want that. So as flat as possible. Alright, I have a little bit of glue on my fingers. I'm going to try to get that off. You might want to wash your hands at this point, but they're probably going to get a little gluier. The thing I really don't want to do is get any glue residue on the finished rocket, so let's avoid that. Last but not least with this thing, I'm going to put a little bit more glue on one of the sides, doesn't really matter which. And this, of course, is going to go inside the rocket as far as you can comfortably get it. So I'm going to put it in, and then I'm just going to lead it in with my index finger about as far as I can comfortably reach, and then I'm going to push it down. Right now I'm pushing in a variety of different places across the thing to make sure that it is smoothed out as possible. Once it's smooth, I'm just going to press down to make sure that it is as flat and as well affixed as I can make it. That's pretty good. Alright. I'm not going to pack all this stuff because I want the glue to be completely dried. I don't want it to like accidentally glue the parachute in there. I've never actually had that happen, but still seems like something to be avoided. So I'm gonna attach things here to the nose cone, but I'm not actually gonna pack things up. So let's do that. Shock cord goes through the eyelet here, and then give yourself enough to work with, but you don't want to go hog wild here. You can always trim excess if you need to. And just a bunch of overhand knots. I think I'm going to put 3 into this. Like I said, this is not a particularly heavy rocket. It seems like having a D mount, a 24mm mount, and the huge parachute that it has is a bit of overkill. But given the fragile nose cone parts, maybe that's just a good idea. Alright, I'm going to trim a lot of the excess off here. 3 knots is probably fine. You probably could have done 4 or 5 with that amount of excess. Yeah, it's fine. So that's half the battle. I have it's kind of just arbitrarily, it ended up down at the bottom, which is fine. Let's bring back the parachute. Clasp is open, and I'm going to reclasp it. This one actually, I'm not sure which way it's narrower, but It is fairly thick relative to the clasp, so this is going to be slightly difficult to reclose. I do have larger barrel swivels that I could have used, but it doesn't really seem necessary. That's close, and there we go. It's in. It's not really in. It's mostly in. I actually have to break out my pliers for that. I mean, it's in, but it's like a little stuck. There we go. There, I just had to kind of push it or lift. Maybe I was accidentally lifting the clasp part. All right, so that's taken care of. All right, this is done. As I said, I'm not going to pack it up right now. I'm going to leave it for an hour or so to make sure that glue is completely set before I shove stuff up next to what is potentially wet glue. But that takes care of it. Got a little dusty there. I'm looking forward to flying this and probably cracking the little toothpicks off on the first try, but whatever. Looks pretty good. I guess the only thing, like I said, I need to trim some of the plastic out of the bottom of the motor mount here so that the motors actually fit into it, but otherwise this is done. So thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you in whatever comes next. See you then.